Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. Yeah, so welcome to this very interesting session on how artificial intelligence is revolutionizing digital financial services. We have a very experienced and diverse panel today. So I'm confident we'll get some very good insights and some practical takeaways from the session. Just before we start this session, I'd like to make an announcement that we are running an online survey. Uh, 5 delegates who complete the survey will stand a chance to win an iPad Air. So I'll request everyone to please participate in the survey. You can find the link to the survey in your chat box. So please participate in the survey. It's a quick survey, just it will not take more than 5 minutes. And the link for the survey will be open till end of tomorrow. Yeah. So, so now let me invite our moderator for the session today, Mr. Arun Kumran. Mr. Arun heads the CRNX business in Southeast Asia region. He has over 20 years of experience working with leading software product companies, helping some of the largest banks in Southeast Asia, Middle East, and Africa in their journey to transform their sales, service, marketing, and customer experience processes. So please welcome Mr. Arun, and I'll request Arun to take the floor, please.
Thank you very much, Rahul. Thanks for the introduction. Welcome everybody, all the attendees who joined us for today's session. It's been a fine afternoon for everybody, I hope. But before we move forward, let's possibly also understand why we've chosen what we've chosen. Why is AI revolutionizing, expected to revolutionize digital financial services? But first, let's understand what's coming in the next 5 years, right? So Bain Research has told us there's approximately compounding growth of 30%, right, in digital loans, digital insurance, which is coming your way. So there are FSIs who are going to take complete advantage on this, where there are winning organizations with thought leaders who are trying to do instant gratification and trying to put customer needs ahead and explore quite a bit of opportunities, and at the same time keeping the cost really, really low. So this is something which is coming for the next 5 years, where there is improvement in customer experience, which is going to happen to superlative 80%, right? And the costs are going to almost come down to half by the virtue of actually using data. Data as of today is going cheaper and cheaper, because that can also be a very valuable parameter of building, or the most valuable parameter of building the AI, which is actually going to be key in delivering the exceptional digital customer experience, right? One of the major things that we also see, which is a transition, which possibly will also be happening in the next 5 years, continuously happening as a journey for the next 5 years. It's been happening for quite some time already, is that there's a continuous channel which possibly will move forward, whereby there could be customers of FSIs or banks predominantly interacting with multiple channels and looking to actually move forward. Looking to actually continue their interactions across multiple channels. So somebody could start interacting with the branch, and then possibly interact with the contact center, and then go sign up for something in the digital channel, right? So this is a continuous channel experience. So this is what Bain Research has published as the estimated impact of digital penetration over the next 5 years. But let's understand what's happening today, right? There is another superlative 89% of decision makers actually seeing AI as the game changer, as the competitive advantage that is going to power their digital strategies and the digital journeys, be it again from a service perspective, from a sales perspective, acquisition perspective. And there's another 80% of the total total FSI space actually looking to increase the number of AI use cases, right? So they are looking at possibly increasing the number of use cases of AI, which means that they are trying to leverage AI in multiple channels, specifically in the digital space, because they go hand in hand with each other, right? At the same time, we've also seen that there is a 300% increase in the adoption of AI technologies. We could possibly attribute a few of that to the ongoing COVID challenges that we have, where our interactions have mostly been digital. But this has also been going on for quite some time, as published by Gartner and Forrester in this particular, in their own study. Without further ado, let me now go ahead and introduce our panelists. And I'll just take 10 seconds to go ahead and talk about the format in which this particular webinar is going to move forward. There is going to be this is going to be a 1-hour webinar with approximately 40 minutes, where we interact with all our panelists, and then a 20-minute Q&A. In the meanwhile, if you have any question answers, please do use the chat to put down your questions. And if you have it, if you want it directed to a specific panelist, please do indicate that in your question as well. So let me now welcome our first panelist, Henny. Talking about Henny, we would like to go ahead and talk about her as a thought leader. She's been in the industry for quite some time from a banking leader perspective. She's been doing complex deliveries from a system perspective, all throughout banks, credit analysis. We should talk about credit cards, commercial banking, very skilled in managing a large team. Also the senior vice president and head of IT in, and digital IT in Bank Danamon. Welcome, Henny.
Thank you so much, Arun. It's very good to be here. Hope that we have a good conversations, interaction with everyone within the seminar.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much for having me.
Yeah, thank you very much for being part of this, right? Next, let me also welcome Neerja Gokhale, who's from AWS. We can, talking about Neerja, it's like an FSI specialist, right? She's been quite experienced, a lot more than a decade in the FSI space. She's been enabling a lot of cross-functional strategies, right? And she's enabled quite a bit of FSIs and fintechs. She also has I think her experience spans from India, Europe, parts of Europe, Southeast Asia, etc. She's currently based out of Singapore, and we'd be very warm welcome to Neerja as well. Welcome, Neerja. Great to have you here.
Thanks, Arun. Great to be here and looking forward to the discussion.
Thank you so much. So the last but not the least, to conclude on the woman power in the panel today is Shilpi. Shilpi, a good friend and a colleague in Business Next as well. She's been having, a lot of experience, a little shy of a couple of decades, if I'm not wrong. She's been managing a lot of projects, right from greenfield projects to massive transformations, which she's been actually doing from different geographies. I should say that's again South Asia, Southeast Asia, quite a bit in Middle East, and she has her. I think she's currently neck deep in North America as well, if I'm not wrong. So, welcome, Shilpi. We look forward to hearing, very valuable insight from you as well.
Thank you, Arun. I think thanks for the kind words, and a very good afternoon to everybody, and thanks for joining in. Let's go on with this webinar. I'm sure we'll bring a good perspective together.
Thank you. Thanks. Let me thank all our panelists once again. Before we start with this, we try and take as much as information, knowledge, experience from all of you by virtue of asking you a few questions, right? So Henny, let me start this with you, right? So how have you seen the digital channel usage, right, in the last, let's say, 1.5 years, right? And can you also talk about how individual behavior is something that excites you in the coming time as well? I mean, what's the connection between all of this?
Thanks, Arun. Certainly, the pandemic, I think, has changed a lot of our day-to-day life. I mean, if you look at the consumer behavior, I think it enforced consumer to be actually really leverage on online or digitals in their day-to-day life. In Indonesia, especially, we see this change of behavior in our consumer. I mean, the adoption of online shopping, online health consultations or telemedicines, and the the grow in terms of even actually up to the online vacations. That is something that is quite evident in Indonesia. From a banking point of view, the data spoke a lot that we see definitely the transactions in our digital channels growing very fast. It's actually rapidly increasing. And then in the other hand, we see a significant less usage of cash within our eight. I mean, if we look at our ATM, we look at the transactions in our branches, right? But at the same time, we also see that there are increase in number of calls that the customer are trying to do to reach out to our sales or to our call center for support or advice. Yeah. So yeah, everything. I think for the last 18 months, we see things are going towards the online channels. I think the pandemic really actually giving us that restrictions to do our day-to-day work. Yeah. But with more and more vaccines that being rolled out to the people, we see a new trend now. The trend of hybrid. I think we now see the trend of hybrid learning, hybrid marketing event, hybrid gathering. Yeah. I think we as a human, we are a social creature. I think eventually the personal person-to-person interactions will definitely need it. So I think in 2022, I anticipate the hybrid, I mean, if I may call it hybrid demand will also be asked from us, financial industry. Our customer may expect same experience they got in online, also in offline channels.
True, absolutely. I think, it's very interesting that you note that there is going to be experience across multiple channels. In the same light, Shilpi, if I might, ask you, what have been your experiences? Because, you've been an enabler through and throughout. So your thoughts.
Yeah, sure. I think Henny rightly said, with this digital progression, a customer can now reach out to a bank from so many channels, whether it is a new age channel, like a social media or a chatbot, or a traditional channel like a call center or a branch. But they expect experience everywhere. And at the same time, a lot of our employees, as we talked about this hybrid model, are now connected virtually with their teams. And hence, more than ever, today we have a need to build a continuous channel experience where there's guidance at every point of interaction. And at the same time, there's adoption to the cloud-first work design. To address these needs, our Business Next platform now comes with various features that enable you to achieve this goal. Whether it is our open communication platform that takes all these interactions across channels, collaborates them together to give you a unified continuous channel experience, or it is our AI platform, which is now helping you generate nudges based on users' actions and asking you to do the next best action and prompting you in the right direction, or giving you behavioral data, or for that matter, even alerting you for something that needs immediate attention. Say, for example, the customer I'm talking to, there's a probable fraudulent transaction that has been detected, and our AI is alerting you continuously. And not only are we talking about predictive guidance here, you can today, with our Playbook Construct, take your own organization's best practices, bundle them in a guided journey, attach them to a workflow, and eventually make your closures faster. And while I talked about, all this collaboration and all this guidance, let's not forget about those employees who are now virtual, like a contact center. With our cloud telephony integrations like Amazon Connect or a Twilio, or our adapters like Zoom and Team, we can deliver a seamless contact center experience where a user in a single click can connect with a customer on any of his preferred channel, auto record the interaction, auto log who all participated, stamp the duration. And that's not all. At the end of it, this whole recording can then be given to a QC team for review. And that's really where we have made a shift as a platform to deliver to this continuous support for digital disruption.
Perfect. Makes sense, right? So I think some of the things that you've, possibly that you've mentioned, like cloud first, work design, right? And we talk about behavioral data and then that giving us the lift off and possibly work, and also working on probability. Nirja, are these phrases something that you work with every day? And can I request your thoughts on that?
Yeah, definitely, Arun. Building on what Henny and Shilpi mentioned earlier, indeed, in the next coming months, just talking about a trend or what we anticipate, we definitely anticipate more and more financial products and services will be delivered to an end consumer in uh, embedded, personalized, scalable, and as we love to call it at AWS, in a secure manner. As both Shilpi and Henny pointed out, these changes are indeed driven by customer behavior, but they're also being enabled by effective use of technology, including AI, ML, and advanced data analytics. So it's really interesting, that going back to humans being social creatures, technology is not necessarily displacing, but rather complementing the existing physical presences. One example that I would like to share is again from Indonesia. Amartha is a company that offers credit loans to entrepreneurs and small businesses in rural areas of Indonesia. Uh, so it's a standard SME finance offering. What they do though is an Amartha user or a SME owner has to go and fill out a form at the nearest Amartha office because they have always had this presence at the edge location. This form then gets uploaded to Amartha website, and investors can choose the ventures they want to fund. Loan payments are collected by Amartha's field agents who are again in the field, complementing the digital presence. Every day, all of this generates about 10 gigabytes of data, uh, including loan and repayment data. All this database gets stored on Amazon Simple Storage Service or Amazon S3. AWS Glue, our ETL service, actually enables and loads this data into Amazon Redshift. And then that's where the use of or effective use of technology comes in, right? Because Amartha's analytics team can very easily crunch this data, process this data, and very quickly identify using the open source business intelligence tools which are the erroneous credit decisions. And in one of the statements that we have on our case study, Amartha's CEO actually mentioned that they were able to quickly see these errors and send the Amartha field staff to actually correct the solution, correct and find the solution. This is the power of running AWS and running Amartha's analytics infrastructure on AWS because they were able to ultimately keep the bad debts on non-performing assets under 3%, which is very low compared to the market average. So that's just one example, but a great combination of what Henny pointed out as hybrid business model, and great use of technology, which Shilpi was referring to.
True. The very interesting things that we kind of caught in this first interaction. Well, one is basically where we saw it as a hybrid model. We talked about scalability. We talked about something very interesting, which is social creatures, right? In this evolution, can we also talk about the challenges that customers experience from the digital channel? How seamless is their experience to move across channel? Henny, if you can throw some light on this, please.
Yeah. Thanks, Arun. I think Shilpi and Niraj, it's a very good thing that I think we got, the technology company that has thought it through I mean, in terms of what are the potential tools that can be leveraged to really actually help us in the financial industry to help our customers, because it is a real challenges that our customer today facing. I mean, I personally see, I think across banks, especially within Indonesia, uh, the journey that the customer have with us across channels are broken. I mean, from the moment probably they become a new customer in our bank, maybe they come through our online channels, and then to, let's say, somehow they want to interact to our call center, to our branch. Okay, uh, stitching the experience, stitching the journey to make it really seamless for the customers is not that easy. Yeah, I think the customer still, if they have certain problem with their transactions in online channel, whenever they come to the branch, okay, many times branch will still have to ask a lot of questions, a lot of information that they have probably shared in the online channels, right? Customer does face that challenge that the journey is not really integrated. Um, I think if I may also probably share from my personal point of view, I think stitching the journey will actually also be quite a very interesting, challenging journey. How to really actually make sure that our mobile banking, our ATM, our branch, right, up to our call centers, our telesales, kind of make sure that they pick up customer interactions from wherever it is being left off, right?
True.
So that broken journeys is something that I think our customer are still challenging here in Indonesia, especially. Also, I guess the other challenge is that in terms of getting faster response from different company, I think we see that a lot of company have a lot of focus in building the digital capability to serve financial transactions. Yeah, but in terms of digital servicing, that is actually really able to come back to customers with whatever customer needs in real time manner, in very fast manner. That is still a challenge that I see.
Okay. Thanks, Annie. So I think while you kind of finished it with speed is something, or that you kind of put a lot of influence on. I think there is two major things. Shilpi, let me bring you in here. There are two things which you mentioned. One was broken journey is not continuous exactly, and there was something very interesting called stitching the journey. Right? Do you want to throw some light on how you see that from your perspective?
Absolutely. And I think it's not, hearing from Henny, I think I've heard this and seen this in many of the digital transformations that we participated with many customers across the globe, especially in the BFSI domain. So, one is, while there are so many channels of interaction, based on segment, the preferred channel may vary. At the same time, the biggest pain area that we saw was the amount of drop-offs that was happening across all these channels. When we went in deeper, we actually realized that there is a need to differentiate between a customer-led experience from a branch-led experience. At the same time, yet, keeping them together from a start, stop, and resume perspective. The reason is that the focus of each is different. If I'm a customer and I'm trying to buy a product or I'm trying to get a service, what am I looking for? I'm looking for, say, a simple, a guided, but a complete experience. Let me give you an example. If I want to open an account digitally with zero touch through the digital channel, I may be focusing more on simple and maybe open an account in 10 minutes. Whereas when you go to a branch, they have actual complex buying experiences which you have to handle. They're looking at simplifying them. And in that same interaction, they're trying to leverage that interaction for a pitch for the best cross-sell offer or deepen their customer relationship. And hence, with our Business Next platform, you can not just create journeys which are seamless, but you can create journeys which are different across channels, across devices to reduce this drop-off rate. And at the same time, no matter where you start from, you can start, and resume from anywhere on your preferred channel. And that's why I think I completely resonate with what Henny says. And that's the direction that we are also working in.
Perfect.
If I may add, right? Yeah.
Sure, Henny.
I mean that, thank you, Shasya. Just to probably add also another observation that the brick and mortar branch that we have today, I think the way I see it's something that is still quite valuable to have. I think that is something that as a customer, right? I mean, the presence of the physical branch is something still matter for our customer because if they know, that the bank is there physically, right? I think somehow there is still that sense of safety. I think the way the branch interact, where it used to be very face-to-face kind of like approach, it's also a bit irrelevant today. So repurposing the branch people that we have in terms of servicing the customer remotely, I think that is also one way probably can help the customer getting better experience.
True.
Absolutely.
That's pretty.
You talked about this hybrid model, and that's really what 2022 is going to be about. And hence, I've been talking about this in my previous answer as well, about a continuous channel experience. It does not matter which channel, whether it's a digital channel or it's a traditional channel, both will persist and both have their own value. We have to enable people across each of them equally. But you have to understand the differential, of what they can do more or less across each.
True, very true. I think that's pretty valuable. I think there are a few things which, in fact, when you touched upon, Shilpi, is that you talked about segment and drop off, right? Something which you wanted to be guided and complete. And Henny came back and said it's not just one channel or a digital channel, but possibly brick and mortar as well, right? Nirja, how does these phrases sound to you? We're talking about guided, complete, and making sure to a point whereby they have closures, if not in one channel, across multiple channels from a continuous channel. Let's pick your thoughts as well.
Yeah, definitely. Both what Shilpi and Henny said makes sense. Obviously, it's interesting, that what you brought up, Henny, was two aspects mainly. One was broken customer journeys, and another was how do I use my workforce more efficiently, and that's probably where we see customers leaning a lot on cloud to make sure that they are repurposing those resources or repurposing those employees. And you brought up call centers, right? Customers are looking to convert their call centers instead of treating them like a reactive support, customers are pivoting to use their call centers more like a proactive customer engagement and management asset that they have built over the years. And one of the examples actually is, Credit, a non-bank lender in Vietnam. They lean on their call center staff by providing them with great analytical tools to ensure that there is a continuous credit assessment and a continuous KYC experience. So every time there is a live event, there is a change in customers' KYC. It pops up automatically and it gets updated automatically. That generates a rather seamless experience. Credit is using Amazon RDS to manage all the data centrally, and they're migrating now from on-premise hosting provider to Amazon Redshift to implement more and more advanced models. So currently they have AI model, which is centered around eKYC, which ultimately delivers both credit scoring and fraud detection. But they are building more models which will be focused on retention, cross-selling, and upselling to enhance and deepen their relationship with existing customers. So that's the direction where customers are going by upskilling their existing staff and complementing that with technology tools that they can bring to bear.
Perfect. I think, what you just mentioned is what are all the needle movers that can be targeted and actually moved up from a continuous channel perspective as well. Shilpi, I'm going to try and come back to you on something that you mentioned, whereby you said, guided complete. and where we want to go ahead and do a segment-based drop-off as well. Can we now understand how, in your words, do you think a bank can enable information and context, across channels preferred by customers, right? So there is a segment, there's a preference, but you still want to have them guided and complete, right? Can you give us an
Right. So see, with so many channels of interaction, there is one thing is clear. There has to be a shift from an omni-channel experience approach to a continuous channel experience approach. But to enable that shift, there are two aspects that we need to touch and address. One, how do we collaborate all these interactions across channels to give you a seamless experience? And second, how do we drive the right conversation at each of these touch points? We're talking about enabling, guidance, and all of that, right? So to answer the first point, with our open communication platform, you can start from routing your interaction intelligently to the right user, whether it's like a rule-based assignment on, say, a user's skill or his rating, or even an AI-based intervention based on probability to close. And once this interaction is assigned to a user, the entire engagement history with that customer is available to him under one umbrella. He can now see what are the open interactions, when did he last reach out, what was his sentiment, and he can choose to continue any of these open interactions, either from the customer's preferred channel or even from the channel of origin. And at the same time, since we're talking about an open communication platform, and if he's plugged in into different channels, you can also send him alerts where he can look at some drop-offs that are happening at a certain website or at a certain digital journey, and can then be notified how to create a quick win back. And while all these interactions he's trying to handle, our AI is continuously helping him. How? It's actually helping him in orchestrating meaningful conversations using features like conversation strikers, or nudging him that this is the next best action you need to do with this particular customer. Or for that matter, even giving him deeper insights about that customer, say on his life event, or maybe on his behavior. Let me give you an example. So the customer I'm talking to, his son is turning 18, and the system prompts you, good time to offer him an education loan. Or maybe one of his FD is maturing, and the wealth management is prompted, why not give him some reinvestment advice? And that is how we'll be able to build a continuous channel experience on our platform, bringing collaboration from channels and bringing from AI, putting them together under one umbrella. And that's where, truly a digital disruption can really take place.
Perfect. Yeah. I mean, what you just mentioned is how much of data that we have, and how we can leverage them on what we could, possibly categorize as life events, preferences, something like from segmentation, which you mentioned from last time. Nirja, from an enabling perspective, now that I've heard Shilpi, can I pick you up for you to throw about how you see a continuous, some of how you could enable the customers to go through possibly a one and done kind of a situation.
Sorry, Aaron, could you just repeat the last part?
No, I was just saying the one and done. So if we can, how can we help the customers to go through those one and done kind of situations over a period of time, right? Okay. So when we're talking about, the question was mostly on enabling information across context-based channels. Shilpi just mentioned origin or preferred channels from that particular perspective. So how can we go ahead and enable flow of information? So can we make sure that this results from an enabling perspective, the bank's customer can do it once and get it done kind of situation?
So every bank actually has a different way of looking at how they want to enable a one and done kind of experience, right? So some of the great examples actually come from Australia. So at the National Australia Bank, they launched an Alexa based offering, which was a way for them to engage the customer on the go, everywhere, anywhere. And they even actually use Amazon Polly to customize the voice of Alexa to give it a more Aussie accent. And once you record your voice pin, it's very easy for customers to ask bank balance, ask what are my upcoming payments. So it kind of becomes a very quick one-stop shop. It's all predominantly automated, and that's the one device. It's one example of one device where you can very easily point the customer to next steps in a very actionable manner. So that's how customers are looking at it. FSIs are looking at it, and everybody is innovating and finding their own sweet spot on what works for their consumer base.
True, true. So, thanks for that, Nirja. I'm going to go back to some of the answers in which Shilpi gave us in the last question, whereby we talked about segmenting, knowing them better. So, how can AI actually help in possibly deepening relationships, right? Simplifying experiences as well, right? And at the same time, opening up new avenues of opportunities for banks or FSIs.
Or you want me to take this or?
Yeah.
Okay, sure.
Yeah, requesting
Okay,
you.
so, sure. So, see, as we were talking about hybrid and the brick and mortar channel being alive, banks today want their relationship managers to focus more on deepening their customer relationships by maybe giving personalized recommendations to their customers, offering the best cross-sell offers, or even addressing their needs on time. But if I am a relationship manager who has a large portfolio of customer, I do not know where to start and how to pitch. And hence our AI platform will help the RM first do an intelligent prioritization of the tasks that he has at hand, then suggest him the next best action or the next best offer with the probability to buy, and even give him deeper behavioral insight from the customer. And at the same time, our AI engine orchestrates meaningful conversations using signal that is generated from the customer's interactions and make it available to the user. And that's not where it ends. All this RPA and all this AI intelligence that we are bringing up in the platform is also change ready. We have our data studio and AI studio designers, which allow you to create your own data flow, your own data models, which can feed into your AI models to deliver the outcomes that you're trying to, reach every time you tweak your strategy. And that's how really, we are trying to approach this problem.
Right. So keeping this in mind, if I may ask, Nirja a little bit, Shilpi just mentioned about how there is next best offer which comes in. You did mention scalability, some time back, right? And you did mention that there is certain level of data which is being crunched in another organization based on, an SME enabler kind of in Indonesia. So in all of this put together, how do you think AWS as an organization also, helps in deepening relationships, making sure it's possibly, favorable for banks to roll out new products, etc. Over to you.
Yeah, thanks, Arun. So I already mentioned a couple of examples, where we discussed how AWS products and services are utilized by FSIs to deepen customer relationship. Typically, one dimension when it goes so effectively, we are talking about customer satisfaction and using AI to impact either top line or bottom line of the business, right? One dimension which often gets missed out, I would say, particularly on the bringing down the cost piece, is how AI often helps bring down the cost and enable innovation through increasing developer productivity and efficiency of engineering teams. Uh, I don't know, but most of the audience should be familiar with WeLab, who ended up grabbing the first virtual banking license in Hong Kong. They were pilot users of an AWS service called Amazon Guard Duty. it's a security service which uses several techniques to identify indicators of compromise. And the machine learning is actually embedded in Amazon GuardDuty. VLab utilizes this service to intelligently monitor their workloads in the cloud. So this testimony, that we had was so great. Before Amazon GuardDuty, they had to rely on access logs that were created at an application level, conduct manual scans, always have somebody on standby for security breaches. But as per their developers, with Amazon GuardDuty, we can sleep better. That's literally the testimony, that we can sleep better. But the confidence that services which come embedded with AI and ML, like Amazon GuardDuty give, is engineers now can go about writing rules using Amazon SageMaker Studio to actually innovate, as opposed to spending hours and hours just being on a standby for security breaches. So uh, for VLab, the developers actually ended up saving 15% of the cost just by enabling uh, higher developer productivity. And remember, this increased productivity or increased efficiency of engineering team ultimately contributes towards uh, identifying new revenue streams. So this is a dimension which often gets missed out, that AI embedded in different services actually is democratizing a lot of and solving a lot of developer challenges as well.
Henny, just want to quickly, pick you up on this. AI embedded services and next best offers, right? Well, I'm coming to how you had that with deepening relationships and banks finding opportunities. Do you want to, throw some light on that, please?
I mean, so for so the critical area here, I think, for us to scale up, right, in terms of servicing our customers, in terms of deepening our relationship, doing cross-sell to the customers, is definitely we need help. We can't rely only to the people that we have or to the employees that we have to do all the works. So we definitely need the help of technology, of tools, the kind that AI and RPA can actually help, right? It's very, very important for us before we go to meet to the customers. I mean, talking about what else we can do for them, what else can we advise to the customers. First is knowing the customer themselves, right?
True.
And it'll come actually from different interaction the customer already have with us, which is stored in our system, in different channels database that we have, in even actually in the call center log, right? In the complaint information that comes into our call center. And different kind of products that the customer already have with the bank. What are the different history that the customer have in terms of the existing product they have with the bank, right? So AI is enabler for us to help us to actually crunch the millions or probably hundreds of millions of information that we already have about the customers, giving us insight, right, about our own customers before we can meet and then talk deeper to the customers. So it's quite important role that we can leverage from for AI. Arun, Shafi, and Nirja, from my point of view, it it definitely would require a very, very thoughtful thinking in terms of the implementation of it.
Right.
I think I so agree with Henny there. While we have this engine that's all tech, but at the end of the day, AI giving you the right patterns is also a paradigm of the kind of data, historical data that you have with you, which can be fed in and really, test these models. So I think very valid point made, Henny. So resonate with you there.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I just have a quick time check now because I think there are quite a few questions coming up and we're kind of running out of time. But then I still want to ask two basic questions. And when I do this, I wanted to go ahead and, possibly have it brief. My first thing, which we probably will start with, Nirja, is how ready do you think Southeast Asia as a region is, to do digital customer opening kind of situation, straight through processes, etc. Right? If we can keep it brief and give us an idea of how ready the region is.
As you probably know, we have multiple regulators in Southeast Asia, Singapore, Malaysia, Philippines, coming up with digital banking licenses. So the region is definitely gearing up for modern digital banking services, ranging from instant account opening to fast loan disbursement. So in terms of regulate readiness, pure readiness, these regulatory directions are in fact encouraging even the existing players to innovate fast and really fast. So every AWS customer, however, having said that, has a unique journey. And I see a couple of patterns or strategies being employed by different FSIs. The first one is building a digital wrapper around existing core IT systems and exploring partnerships like open banking platforms. Thai Retail and Credit Bank, TCRB, in Thailand, who go after SME and nano segment, recently launched their open banking platform on AWS, and it really helped them, to very quickly roll out payment and revolving loan app on their to engage their customers. So that's one way of doing it. Other way that I see typically being adopted by FSIs is actually modernizing their core platforms for agility and faster time to market. So and it might sound surprising, but even rural banks are adopting this strategy. So Next Bank, established in 2017, they're a cloud native core banking provider. So far, they have 18 rural banks running their solution with regulatory approval. So and 8 more are expected to come up in 2021, by end of 2021. So while it might sound daunting, adoption of digital or modernization of a bank from inside out, it's definitely becoming a well-trodden path. And AWS and our partners, much like CRM Next, are definitely enabling uh, this this transformation in Southeast Asia.
True. So, Henny, you've been working closely with regulatory readiness and everything else, which Nirja just mentioned, which are enablers with that. Just want to check with you how Indonesia as a country or the region, in your words, is doing from this particular perspective.
Thank you. Indonesia have a quite a unique situations, I believe, probably if I compare to the other country. I think because of the, we'll be probably similar to India because of the number of populations that we have, right? But Indonesia, we have quite a number of big unicorn fintech. Yeah, I think big banks will definitely want to tap into the fintech ecosystem in terms of reaching out to more people, giving financial services. So the self-service capability, especially around acquisition, allowing the self-service account opening. I mean, from different product, saving account, a credit card, or even actually a time deposit is it's a capability that we have been actually doing for the last 18 months actually. That is something ready. We have actually embarked our journey on these digital acquisition, digital account opening, be it for our own ecosystem or even within fintech ecosystem. Yeah, I think it needs to be a continuous journey so that also in a similar manner, we can actually provide our services, not just actually allowing the account opening, but also further service to be also extended on digital manner.
True, completely. But just before I come to you, Shilpi, on this, just want to go ahead and remind all our attendees that there is a live survey which by you fill and you get an iPad. Unfortunately, I'm not qualified for that. Else I would have filled that. But whoever is qualified, please go ahead and have the live survey filled, and we possibly will have the latest iPad, shipped out to you. But then coming back to what we were talking about, she'll be talking about readiness, direct product journeys, talk about AI-driven automation ecosystem straight to process. Please do also let us know what your thoughts are.
Yeah, sure. So, as Henny said, Indonesia has its own digital transformation, its own technology landscape, its own governance frameworks, and every country does, right? To enable our customers across geographies in fulfilling their promise to modern digital banking, we focus on building adapters and connectors, which are specific to that country, that region. Let me give you an example here. Say a credit bureau connector, which is specific to Indonesia or Thailand, or a national ID verification service, or a address verification. In fact, for that matter, even preferred imaging and e-signing systems for that particular. And all these adapters allow us to offload the integration complexities in small plumbing units, which can then be reused time and again across journeys that we draw, whether it's on a digital channel, whether it's for a brand channel, and across devices. Having said that, that'll only solve one part of the problem, which is, definitely an important part of simplifying the complexity of a true digital STP process. But at the same time, when it comes to digital transformation, change is the only constant, which means whatever we are bringing to you has to be change ready, whether it is the UI, whether it is the design, whether it is the process, or whether it is the experience itself. And hence, with our built-in designers, whatever you are building today, you can change it in alignment with your own business strategy as it evolves. And that's what, how we're partnering with customers across the globe, addressing their geographical needs and working with them in fulfilling their digitization vision.
Perfect. Yeah. So while you said there are adapters that you have done, and quite a bit of work that we've kind of enable your customers, right? So because banks are your customers, and you're trying to do that to your customers. I mean, while we definitely run out of time, but there's one question which I think was very valuable for all. I think our attendees is we've done all of this. We've kind of we've done our own digital, we've done our own AI. How do you measure them, right? So maybe Henny, I'll ask you to begin with this. I mean, this is our last question, and we've definitely run out of time, but it's a very pertinent question as well, saying, how do we measure this? How good are we? And from a digital and AI perspective. Over to you, Henny.
It'll be a short answer from me. I think from the standard financial metrics, or maybe number of transaction metrics, I think what is important here also to be measured is the level of customer satisfaction, and using all of the services that we built. Also the level of engagement frequency. Those are the two metrics I would probably think is important.
Oh, great. So level of customer satisfaction and the level of engagement frequency, right?
Yes.
Great. So that kind of tells you if the customer is kind of happy, and the kind of engagement, you're not trying just touch point from an engagement perspective, is very, very high. So quickly, thank you very much on that, Henny, but over to you, Nirja. Quickly, can you just summarize how do you think you would kind of validate success?
Yeah. From what we're seeing across different customers, it depends on the business challenge or use case for which they're applying AI ML as a technology to solve a problem. So this goes back to the idea of what we practice at AWS, working backwards. It's a mechanism called working backwards. For instance, if you're using a service like Amazon Recognition, an image and video analysis tool for verifying customer identities in real time, near real time, then the metric that you would use is percentage improvement in onboarding speed and lowering the cost of onboarding per user. So in a nutshell, WorkApps, for instance, an ISV who provides video KYC solution was able to materially bring down this time for 48 hours to 2 or 3 seconds using Amazon Recognition. So the metric of measurement would be in a nutshell dependent on the kind of workload that you're running, or where you're applying AI ML as a technology. So it's very important to have a clear problem statement that you want to solve with AI ML or advanced data analytics in order to both measure success and define the measure correctly.
Perfect. So problem statement should be picking up. I think that's very important. Defining the problem statement is the key towards, finding this. I mean, do you have something to, I'm sure you do, but please do let us know what you have to add to that.
See, it's as simple as this, why is measuring anything important? And when you're trying to do a digital transformation, anything that you can measure, you can improve. Every big transformation that world has tried to do is an outcome of a continuous improvement. Hence, not only do we help you build your work design aligned with your growth strategy, but we also help you measure and track where you are on that curve. Our platform has its own analytical engines which allow you to create reports and dashboards. And not only can you leverage data within the platform to create these reports and dashboards, but also take data from external applications or external databases, say a data warehouse or a data lake. And the intelligence and the learnings that you take away from these dashboards and from these reports, from these KPIs, you can actually loop back on your business strategy based on these learning and design your next improvement plan. And that is what will truly drive a digital transformation, or rather any transformation that we attempt. So I think that's where I feel it's a very important part of the success. How do we measure? What do we set up as matrices?
I think the last question, which we just discussed, is possibly, throwing a lot of light on what we've done continuously. Some of the things we talked about, which Henny mentioned about engagement frequency, and Neeraj talked about possibly defining the problem statement right. And like what you said, whatever you could measure is something that you can make better, work on and make better, right? I think before we go to the questions, we do have a few questions, some of them from anonymous attendees, but I'll try and direct them to you. The point here, which we've continuously understood, is that the brick and mortar is going to stay, right? That's the basis of banking, right? There is an extension of a channel called a digital channel, which is coming through due to various innovation, from a device perspective, I think from an enablement of the central bank perspective, and all of this is coming through, very, very strongly. All this said, there is no choice of whether or not you're not wanting to do a digital channel, because it's already there. It has to be done. It's now we're trying to leverage on data and AI to bring in the efficiency where there is nobody trying to manage it. Digital channel usually comes with the zeros, right? There's zero touch. There's nobody you're trying to talk to, right? As a digital channel, there is zero TAT. The turnaround time is immediate, right? And there is zero waste, right? So if there is absolutely one-time investment and you're trying to do all of this, AI being more like the enabler, and like how I think Forrester and Gartner mentioned, is more like the competitive difference that is coming into play. So I think kinds of sums up. I hope all the attendees here, had a great takeaway from this. And I still don't know who's getting the iPad. I just know it's not me. But it's time for some questions. Henny, I'm going to pick you up because you mentioned this, and you possibly want to take this one question for yourself. There's an anonymous attendee who says, for the hybrid trend mentioned in the conversation, will AI, automation, and human involvement have an equal role, or will one take precedence over other? Let me repeat that for you, right? It's pretty long. For a hybrid trend that you mentioned, that was mentioned in the conversation, will AI, artificial intelligence, automation, and human involvement, right, have an equal role, or will one take precedence over another? Over to you, Henny.
I think my personal view, I've mentioned earlier, I think we need to place AI and automations as an enabler for us.
Mm-hmm.
I don't see in any way in the future that these two aspects will actually replace a human like that. Yeah, but I think this is actually a very critical tools to have to enable us to, because I think as a human we have our limitations, especially to process the number of information that we have today in this digital world, right? And it's actually now also plays a role in how we actually managing our business in banks. Yeah, it's a tool for us, and we need to be able to actually figure out a way how we want to use these tools uh, to scale up our services, to help us to know the customer, and then at the end of the day feed it in as a fit, summarize a very good information to the people that we have. So whenever the customer is actually needing that interactions, right, a personal person to person personal interactions, right, we are equipped to
True.
start the conversation with the customer, deep conversation with the customer.
Perfect.
So yeah, I don't think I will answer whether that is equal or not equal, but it's important to think that AI and the automations are the enabler, the tools that are needed.
Perfect. And then that's in line with what you've been, mentioning quite some time, right? The Bikram motto is there to enable, and there, I mean, is always there to stay, and there is going to be enablers around that, right? So thank you very much for that. Shibi, I'm going to bring you out next because your name was actually mentioned here. It says, can the journey designers that you spoke about, right? Journey designers mentioned by Shilpi handle complex parallel digital processes?
Oh, absolutely. And that is the whole purpose. Our experience in the banks, across the world has started from large enterprise banks, and hence we understand the complexity. They are at a stage of transformation. They're not at a stage of unify or organize. And hence the designers by default are in a way where you can handle the most simple experience that you're trying to make, as well as a very complicated experience where there are, say, parallel assignment based on your channel or the user's profile, your entire experience changes based on your device experience changes. So totally, absolutely, and that is the has always been the vision, to give deeper engines which can handle the highest complexity. Of course, then they can definitely handle the simple ones too.
Right. So yes, handle complex parallel. I think from what you've mentioned, scalability seems to be the middle name, right? So that seems to be, I mean, you seem to be very having scalability and complexity on your side. Nirja, there is a very, very, unique question, which I really want to try and put your way. We'll try and end the session with this, but it's pretty interesting. And I just thought, this would be very, very, interesting for you. There's a question which says, AI is taking over human dominated expertise of intuition, right? Imagination and strategic thinking, right? So let me just repeat that for you. AI is taking over human dominated expertise of intuition, imagination, and strategic thinking. How can financial services leverage this as an opportunity instead of a challenge? I'm sorry, you're on mute, Nirja. Sorry. Nirja, you're on mute. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry. That's really an interesting question indeed. And, typically when we speak of AI/ML, you always talk about supervised learning and unsupervised learning. And I guess how financial services can take advantage of it is by leveraging AI, whether supervised or unsupervised, for the right kind of use cases. So going back to the problem statement definition, uh, what do you really want to offload versus where do you want human intervention? AWS platform, we have if you look at the stack that we have tools at multiple levels, and different customers are leveraging these tools very, very effectively to offload the things which are manual, mundane, very obvious, and also to increase the efficiency of decision making done by humans. So both to make sure that you're not wasting your valuable human resources for something that's very obviously replaceable by technology. Could be again taking an example of Amazon recognition.
Mm-hmm.
You could very easy, as long as your ID comes with a very definitive format, you can very easily use Amazon services like AWS and like Textract to extract information from an ID and effectively bring down the manual effort in KYC. But at the same time, you probably will want certain parameters of decision making to be still controlled by humans. Um and this is true often, in case of claims processing or insurance underwriting and similar use cases. So FSIs are actually leveraging AWS AI/ML tools by defining the problem statement clearly, whether it is replacing a certain tool and or completely automating the process, or complementing the existing process and fast tracking some of the processes. I know it's a little bit of an open-ended answer, but hopefully that helps.
No, it really does help. So what I think the anonymous attendee here is also talking about is there is an opportunity, which you have said, and there is a challenge. It could be more of an opportunity is what I think the question also intends to do. And I think that's predominantly what you've also mentioned. So
And
I
more and
think we
more,
can just,
as adoption of AI and ML increases, especially in financial services, we are seeing patterns and trends of how do you explainability of AI, which is increasingly becoming an area where even the regulators are coming up with different regulations, and FSIs in the end are becoming more and more conscious of how do I make sure that this model and the decisions made by this model can be tracked back and answered correctly. So the explainability of the AI is also becoming an area of genuine interest, particularly for regulatory reporting, but also for other use cases.
Absolutely.
perfect.
And just to add to this, before we wrap up, I know we've already overshot the time. That's why, as a platform, we've always focused to create that balance. And I did talk about, what is the AI? We should also respect the human intelligence that we have within our organization. And hence, touching the playbook construct. Hence, with the platform, you can use AI, the intelligence there, but at the same time, leverage what you have as an organization, which is purely your own way of doing business. So you should have the ability to nurture both.
Perfect. So thanks for that as well, Shilpi. Like you mentioned, yes, we've overshot time. And first of all, let me go ahead and thank the organizers who organized this particular webinar. Let me also thank the panelists. I think, like we started with this, at the end of this webinar, I can't stop myself from saying, looks like this is like a dream team kind of situation where it's completely geared to take on the advantages of AI and enabling them in the digital channel completely, keeping the end customers in mind and the kind of liftoffs the business would kind of demand as well, right? So I think at that note, we still have a few questions. We probably will write to the panelists for responses and possibly get back to them. Let me also thank the attendees for being part of this webinar. But we look forward to try and do a continuation of what we've done till now. But at the same time, let me thank everybody here, right, for participating. I think it's very, very valuable for what we've shared today. We will have this session has been recorded and will be shared possibly for consumption in a global platform as well, right? So thank you very much. And it's been a pleasure. Special thanks to Nirja, Henny, and Shilpi for spending your time on this particular webinar.
Thank you so much. The pleasure was all ours. Thank you so much.
Likewise.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.